With the, not anymore, recent nerfs to staff's healing output, it would be at least nice to sit down and consider the unfortunate fate of Warrior's support builds. You do remember we have support builds, right? Anyhow, no one would blame you for thinking otherwise, as in either PV whatever mode, actual support warrior is still a very niche concept, with only a handful of faithful weirdos, such as myself, even bothering to play it. If you want to see those faithful weirdos in their natural habitat, check out Bullshit Brigade's Discord server, where we continue being confidently weird, and consider supporting financially through Patreon my efforts to become even weirder. That said, there's an odd pattern I have noticed across my testing with core support warrior. Pattern being, it still heals for staggering amounts, even in less than optimal scenarios on a less than optimal build. But that's not really a surprise, considering lack of raw numbers wasn't the main issue warrior used to face, neither before nor after addition of staff. Coincidentally, the nerfs from September the 10th at worst equalized the buffs from June 25th, as staff receiving roughly 30% nerfs to base heal of Violent Leap and both base and ratios of Linebreaker and unmodified Defiant Roar are certainly a hit, but considering that since June 25th, all warriors healing gets additional 15% modifier to all allies, and Soldier's Comfort plus Martial Cadence combo heals for roughly as much as Linebreaker does, but on what's essentially 1/3 of the cooldown, as well as the fact that 2nd and 3rd level path to victory dodged the nerfs, it seems that the sheer healing output warrior is capable of was simply put on a shelf Spellbreaker doesn't get to access. So support build haven't really suffered much at the hands of Balance Man. Or at least that's what happened on paper. Because more of warrior healing output is within his trait lines, activating the trait effects became more important for the aforementioned build to function. This has various notable consequences, mainly the increased need for frequently and consistently taking your burst and someone's skull and putting the two together. Heightened Focus buff is one that needs to be upkept to benefit from its heal steroids, and it cannot be upkept in any different way than through bursts of violence. You're expected to have either 2 first level bursts or a 3rd level one to spare every 15 seconds just so you can upkeep said buff, which you need for your heals to be juicy enough to matter in tense situations. Not to mention, you actually have to land those bursts, forcing you to consider all the variables such as enemy evasion, blocks, ages, blindness, invulnerability, escape tools, terrain inconsistencies, and quirks of the game engine, just to upkeep a trait buff. Furthermore, to generate that buff, you reach down into the same well from which brand of your healing comes, as path to victory is still the largest number you can drop on top of your ally, making your adrenaline economy much more noteworthy of a problem. But that's still not everything going on under the hood, as you not only need heightened focus buff, but also large chunk of your healing happens through the courtesy of Soldier's Comfort Martial Cadence combo, doubly increasing the importance of landing those bursts. Previously, your healing was only dependent on your adrenaline generation, as before this heightened focus and SCMC combo were needed to heal efficiently, you were free to take all the adrenaline you got and all of it on top of your ally of choice. To heal optimally with new setup, you'd have to hit enemies with bursts much more consistently, roughly every 5 seconds, as that's how often you can refresh Soldier's Focus with your weapon swap, and do that being close enough to your ally for them to receive healing. Thank Hydrated One that the Soldier's Focus has 600 radius baseline, otherwise the whole ordeal would be a pain in the ass, the magnitude of which could be only measured in shit tons, as even 600, let alone bare minimum you get from actual staff skills, is deceptively short range when you have to proc it off something other than your healing target recipient. You need to beat somebody up to gather adrenaline you need, but you also need to spend that adrenaline on beating somebody up to activate your traits, as those both directly and indirectly contribute to your healing output. Currently, as a heal warrior, you not only need to violate somebody, but also need to drag your healing target with you to watch it happen. As you can bloody guess, asking a teammate in need of healing to move closer to danger instead of moving in opposite direction feels rather counterintuitive. We of course have snap pull to deliver the enemy right where we need them to be, flat on the ground in front of us. But snap pull has over 20 seconds of cooldown, and we need this same effect much more often, much more consistently. Henceforth the question is born: how do we entice random teammates to stay within close enough proximity to the enemy for them to receive healing from our traits and skills? Answer is deceptively simple. We got to ring the dinner bell. Nothing works as a magnet for your teammates better than free or near free kill does. And nothing screams free kill more than target that's currently in the process of getting integrated into the surface of the planet. And the combination of keeping targets still with absurd adrenaline generation of defense trait line combines to form this specific paradox. Taking Hammer as a secondary support weapon gives you more value than taking anything with Warhorn, and that's through sheer adrenaline generation alone. Furthermore, Stalwart Strength is pretty much the only way for us to generate enough stability not to get overwhelmed with pressure in an average teamfight. Sure, we sacrifice Cleansing Ire for that, but unlike Summon Blue we have to make compromises, and in regards to cleansing, Martial Cadence just got buffed, so we still have more than decent Conti cleanse, especially if we take Shake It Off on top of that. Defense Hammer Warrior is just self-sufficient enough and generates just enough adrenaline to carve the space it needs to provide decent support in a group fight. Its biggest downside as of current is low out-of-combat healing and dependence on CC to generate said adrenaline, but both of these aren't nearly as bad as tendency to get stun-locked to death and general helplessness that we just fixed. Not to mention, not every support can deprive whatever it's currently trying to harm your patient of its entire health bar while keeping it in one lengthy CC chain. We are one, maybe two changes away from having Staff Hammer be the viable support setup. A simple addition of something similar to Scrapper's System Shocker to Warrior's Toolkit would fully enable that idea. In summary, when in doubt, play a Stunbot, even if you're trying to be a healer. A special sign of gratitude to generous Patreon supporters who made my extensive testing of Hammer healing on unwilling subjects possible. You're truly welcome. And with that said, Crapface out.